What's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing another episode of Unfiltered Talks. Today we're going to be specifically talking about emotional sequences in movies and TV shows. And part of the reason I wanted to make this video is because I just made an epiphany literally just a couple of minutes ago. And I realized something that I always thought about myself was actually technically incorrect. And I just wanted to kind of come here and talk about it. So for starters, I'm going to be just talking about the fact that for the longest time, I thought that I was kind of like emotionally numb, and I thought that movies couldn't make me cry because it was just something in me that like made it really impossible to cry to movies. And last year, I made a video talking about every single one of the movies that made me cry in the year, and it was only 3 movies. The entire year, I watched almost 100 new movies, and only 3 movies were able to make me cry. And I kind of realized, wow, maybe I'm just really bad at being connected with my emotions, or maybe, you know, the movies that came out just weren't that emotional. But I kind of realized something that I had always thought about movies that I found out recently was kind of untrue. So the specific thing that I'm talking about is I thought that part of the reason why movies were never able to make me cry was because they were too short. And I realize now that there are a lot of moments that have made me cry, in whether it's television shows or it's movies or it's even like maybe commercials or anything like that, where things will make me sad, and it doesn't necessarily need a shit ton of time to make me sad. So I kind of want to just kind of talk about that basically for the longest time I thought that movies couldn't make me cry because they didn't have enough runtime to make me cry. And like I said, I'm realizing now that that's not true. So this video is going to be all over the place. I'm kind of going to be talking about certain movies that have elements that have made me cry and what I think it takes to make me cry during a movie, if that makes sense. But for starters, we're going to be talking about some of the short form content that I was talking about that have made me cry. So one of the big ones that I will talk about, and I'm going to be completely honest here, this is a safe space. I'm going to talk about stuff that makes me cry. If you have any weird like movie moments that you feel like not a lot of people have cried to, but you cry to every single time, feel free to share them down below. But we're going to dive right into this. The first one that I want to talk about is the song from the little Pixar short, Somebody to Lava. That short, I've watched it maybe about 6 or 7 times. It still can make me cry. Like 9 times out of 10, if I watch that, it will make me cry. For people who don't know the short, the basic premise is there is a volcano in the middle of the ocean who is singing about wanting somebody to love. And under the ocean, what he doesn't know is there's another volcano that is rising. And that volcano is listening to his voice, always hearing him sing, and is like, wow, oh my god, he has a very beautiful voice, and is looking forward to potentially meeting this volcano whenever she erupts and she is big enough to be above the water. And what's it called? For generations, this volcano is singing songs about wanting to find somebody to love. And then as he like grows weak and he falls like further and further into the ocean, the other one is finally like getting closer and closer to being above the ocean. And whenever she finally does rise above the ocean, the other one is too weak and hasn't erupted enough recently, and it's starting to fade under the ocean. And whenever the new volcano that was under the ocean is finally fully rose, she starts singing the song, and she can't see the other volcano because the other volcano has sunk too deep. And it's a very emotional song. It's a very emotional short. I think it's literally about like 4 minutes long, but like I said, it will make me cry every single time because she starts singing the song, and then the other one under the sea realizes that they finally have somebody to lava, but they're not there, and then they erupt, and then they have like the cutest little love story ever. And it's something that I think Pixar particularly does incredibly well, because I love Pixar, and Pixar does a really good job of making me emotional. Last year, like I mentioned, there was only 3 movies that made me cry. One that was really close was Elemental, the scene where we thought that Wade was dying. I was like, no way they're doing this right now, and I got really emotional. And I'm not gonna lie, it was great. I loved it. I thought they did a really good job with that. And something that I really like about Pixar is that they do a really good job with just character connections and love stories in general. I feel like they do a really good job with, in that movie, kind of like, not necessarily enemies to lovers, but like people who, I mean, it is enemies to lover actually, because they start off kind of like fighting about, you know, him being an inspector and being like, your pipes are not right, and we're going to get your store shut down. And then Ember being like, you're an asshole and you're entitled and you have water privilege. Did I come off too strong with that? I feel like some people might have missed that point, that, you know, I don't think people missed that point. But anybody who missed that point, spoiler alert, water people are white people, and they are water privilege, and they kind of like have a lot of discussions throughout the movie that kind of like, you know, go against that and kind of explain how, you know, everybody kind of has their own battles that they're struggling with. But either way, it's a great movie. If you haven't seen Elemental, I would definitely recommend going and watching it. It's one of my favorite Pixar movies of all time. Unironically, it's not recency biased. I know a lot of people be like, it's recency biased. I think it's one of the best love stories in all of Pixar, and that's saying something because there are some pretty damn good love stories in Pixar. But that being said, right, that one's one that can make me emotional. The beginning of Up, if you don't cry watching that, I don't think you're human. Like, genuinely, you gotta work on that. I feel like there are some really good moments in WALL-E that could really make you emotional and really make you cry. And something that I really love about WALL-E is the fact that Pixar was really bold with that movie, and they kind of started it off feeling like it was going to be a silent film. And there's just a lot of moments with like this little robot who's curious about life and where life went. And I love the fact that he finds a little flower and he does everything that in his protection to keep it alive. And it's really, really cute. The movie WALL-E is a very, very beautiful film. But that being said, we're going to move on from Pixar, because even though I love Pixar and I could talk about Pixar for a really long time, the point of this current video is to talk about things that are emotional, and I wanted to talk about specifically short things that are emotional. There is a short film. I cannot remember the name of it. You can find it on YouTube, though, and I will probably put the name up on the screen so you guys can potentially go find it. I'll probably include the thumbnail and everything. But it is a short film about a guy and a girl who fall in love. The girl is deaf, and all of her life she kind of gets treated like an outcast because people don't understand her and they can't really speak with her. And it's a really beautiful story about this guy and the girl and how they're really close friends, and they fall in love with each other. They talk via little notepad. They'll like write down little notes for each other, and then eventually the guy learns sign language so he can ask her to prom. And they end up having some kind of like miscommunication that happens. And throughout the story, like I said, this is a short film. I think it's like 8 minutes long or something like that. Throughout the story, they end up kind of like having this like really bad falling apart. What's it called? They like throw away their notebook that they've had all of their conversations in. And eventually the girl who's deaf, who has never spoken before ever, is like trying to get his attention while he's walking away, and she realizes that she can't do it. And then she starts speaking, and she doesn't know how to speak because she's deaf and she's never really used her voice before. And she just like is like, hey, stop. And it's like, it's just so emotional. The fact that she's never been able to properly, like, not necessarily properly, but the fact that she was never really able to communicate with him using her voice or whatever, and him starting to walk away is, you know, causes her to have to speak out loud, and her not being able to do it but trying to because she wants him back. It's a very emotional short film. I really, really love it, and it has, like I said, made me cry. And I think it's really interesting how they're able to make me cry. And I think that, like, with Pixar, one of the strong things here is being able to build that connection and being able to have two people that are incredibly close to each other and basically being able to like sacrifice things for one another. Like, he kind of also got made fun of because they were like, oh, he's hanging out with that weird girl. And he never really let it get to him because he was like, you know what, I really love this girl and I am willing to kind of do things to make it work. And I love that in any form of story, any form of love story that has two people, you know, making sacrifices for each other. Very, very beautiful. And I think it also imitates life really well. Like, if you're ever truly, truly in love with somebody, sometimes you're willing to make some of those sacrifices for each other. And that is beautiful. And I love it. Now to kind of get into some TV shows, there's only been a couple of TV shows that have made me cry. And I'm going to talk about why for the longest time I thought that TV shows were the only things that could make me cry. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into that. Okay, so right off the bat, I'm going to go ahead and say I do not watch TV shows a lot. I'm not a big fan of television. I don't really have the attention span for television that much. That's part of the reason why I mostly focus on movies here on this channel. But I do think that television is a great medium, and there's a lot of things that work with television that would not work for TV shows. Most recently, I made a video talking about filler episodes, and I actually have another video that I plan on making soon about kind of my favorite filler episode tropes, and part of the reason why what filler episodes are as important as they are. But one thing that I really like about filler episodes, just to keep it brief, is it gives you a chance to kind of further expand on characters that you wouldn't really understand and that you wouldn't know that much about, because in movies, a lot of times the side characters, they get about like 5 or 6 minutes worth of screen time, and you end up leaving the movie not really having a whole lot of, ideas about like what this character's deal is or how they came to be where they are. And for some characters like Han Solo, iconically, Captain Jack Sparrow, it's really interesting not knowing their story and having more of a, kind of like, where did this guy come from? Why is he the way that he is? Like, he's just so interesting. And there's a lot of really interesting character aspects about them because they're mysterious. And I think that the mysterious side of them works to help build those characters. But in TV shows specifically, it's really nice being able to have episodes where you can focus on some of these side characters because it makes them saying goodbye a lot more emotional. So, like I said, only 2 shows ever have made me cry. One of them being the Flash TV show on CW, which I know some of you guys are probably going to be like, really, The Flash? Yeah, I know it gets really bad towards the end, but the first couple of seasons were really good. And one of the scenes specifically that makes me cry is the death of HR in season 3. And I think that the reason why that death sequence is incredibly emotional to me, on top of it just being one of my favorite newcomers that season dying, it's the ability to misdirect. The fact that everybody kind of thought that this one thing was going to happen, and when it happened, it was kind of really emotional, but then they switched it up on us. We weren't fully expecting it to be this person who died, and whenever it gets revealed that he's the person who died, the shock factor really hit me good. And I want to go ahead and say that I feel like misdirection is a great way to get people to be incredibly, incredibly sad. Another example of this is anytime in a movie or TV show where people get done in some form of fight or sequence or something like that, and you're looking at the character and they look fine, and then they pan down and there's like a bullet wound or something. Like, I feel like one movie that did this really well, Spider-Man No Way Home, when they had Aunt May's death or whatever, she seemed like she was okay, she was talking to Peter, and then like you look down and you see that she got impaled and she's like slowly bleeding out. Incredibly, incredibly emotional sequence. And I just wanted to kind of shout out the fact that little misdirection, a little trickery, not necessarily trickery, but catching people off guard works really well with the emotional trope. And now for another big TV show, one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And when I say that this movie is the only show, when I say that this show is one of the only shows that have ever made me cry, a lot of people are always like, that's weird. But I think that it's kind of going against expectations here a little bit. And the show is The Office. And the specific episode that I'm talking about is Farewell, Michael. And on top of just being sad because the show lost its best character and arguably the main point of the show, I feel like the thing that makes it as emotional as it is when you go to The Office, it's a show that's mostly comedic relief. It's a show that's mostly funny. It's something that's, for the most part, just giving you a couple of laughs. And this episode is played pretty straight on as just like a normal episode. They're just kind of treating things as everything is going to be a-okay and everything's going to be fine. But Michael is leaving. And there are undertones of this sadness. And there's a lot of moments creeping in where you're kind of realizing, oh crap, this guy is leaving. And this guy's impacted all these people for so many years. How are they going to be able to handle things without him? And it's really, really sad, really, really emotional. And obviously there's a lot of individual scenes that get me. The moment when they sing, I can't remember the exact number, but they sing like, 526,600 minutes. That's how long you've worked here, or whatever. And they just like sing that song. Incredibly emotional. The fact that, what's it called? Crap, I'm blanking on the actor's name right now. The actor who plays Michael Scott, Steve Carell. The fact that Steve Carell had no idea that that was happening, and he gets like his actual genuine reaction, and he's actually tearing up, and he's insanely emotional, is really, really heartbreaking. And the scene with Jim where they're saying goodbye, and Jim's like, no, let's not say goodbye. We'll say goodbye tomorrow. Is so good, and it gets me every time. And part of the reason why I think this one particularly works really well is, like I said, it goes against what you typically expect from the show. The show is a typically very funny show, but they sit down and they have a very serious moment, and they take something that should be taken seriously and they make it more serious, and it's incredibly emotional. I feel like this is another one where like it being a show benefits because you get to spend more time with the characters, and you really see how Michael interacts with every single character in The Office. So on top of just being, everybody's boss, he has like moments where like he's really supportive to Pam, and he kind of is like a fatherly figure to her by the end of the show, which is great. And I really, really love that episode. So many great moments in it, and it's fantastic. And now, one last thing that I want to kind of shout out. It's going to be another short thing. It's actually the entire reason why I'm making this video. And let's dive right into this. So I am going to go ahead and issue a little bit of a trigger warning here. I'm going to be talking about suicide and suicide awareness, and I know that some people that could be potentially triggering for them. So if you are triggered by suicide, talks of suicide, anything like that, I would advise you to end the video here. This is part of the reason why I saved this part for last. But if you guys are comfortable with that, I'm going to go ahead and carry on now. So the specific thing that made me want to make this video is I watched a 30-second commercial the other day, and it was about suicide awareness, and it was insanely impactful to me, and it was something that, like I said, was able to make me cry, and I wasn't expecting it, because for the longest time I thought you really need a really long time to get, you know, emotionally invested in characters and emotionally invested in specific storylines to be able to cry. But there's a couple of commercials out there that will make you cry, and this one I think did a really good job at being emotional and also spreading a very important message. But the commercial, if I find it, I'm going to try to put like the video of it over me talking and explaining what it is. It showcases two older gentlemen, and they're at a soccer game. And it shows one clip of them, they're hanging out and they're trying to be best buds. And there's one of them who's very sad and emotional, and he kind of seems like he's really bummed out to be there. And even though, you know, there's fun and exciting things happening with the soccer match, he just can't really get into it as much. And then the one next to him is, you know, trying his best to kind of make him feel involved and trying to make him feel included. And, you know, he's like offering him a drink. He's asking him how his day is going, and he's trying to be there for him. And whenever like a goal is scored or anything like that, he's like, yeah, let's go ahead, let's celebrate and stuff like that. And he's even doing things like giving him his jersey and stuff like that. And then the commercial talks about suicide awareness and talks about how sometimes the signs aren't enough, and sometimes you can't tell when people are feeling bad, so always be aware of the fact that some people really just need people to be there for them. And the commercial ends and it's showing the two empty seats, and it talks, I think it literally just says the signs aren't always obvious, and then the one who had been sad the entire time and who looks really depressed and seemed like they would be the kind of person to potentially kill themselves walks in, and the other one doesn't. Because the other one who looked happy and has always been trying to, like, you know, share the mood and share the excitement and give, you know, the other one his jersey and, you know, always ask him how he's doing, he wasn't doing okay. And nobody ever really checked in on him, and nobody made sure he was okay because he just seemed like he was fine. And sometimes that's how it is. Sometimes people will look okay even though they're not okay. And sometimes you need to be able to reach out and communicate with people and have these conversations. And I really liked the commercial. I think it sheds light on a very powerful and emotional topic, and it made me cry. It was very impactful, and I definitely would recommend watching the commercial for yourself. But yeah, that being said, that was pretty much all I wanted to talk about here. If you guys are ever feeling alone or feeling depressed or feeling like, you know, the world is against you and you have the entire weight of the world on your shoulders and you can't bear the pain, feel free to reach out. Anybody can help. Anybody will, you know, feel free to call suicide hotlines if you need to. Feel free to reach out to a friend. Never be afraid to talk to somebody about it or ask for help. You're not alone. I know that it feels like you are sometimes, but you're not. And I just wanted to kind of share that message as well. But that being said, that was it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have an incredible day. I love you guys so much for watching this video and sticking through to the end. You guys are amazing. And like I said, if you guys have any sad movie moments that have made you cry, any like little commercials or short films that you've seen that have made you emotional, feel free to let me know down below. But that being said, that's gonna be it for this video, guys. I will hopefully see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bow. Back at it again, but that's a relevant flow. So smooth, they calling me Mr. Elegant. Like an elephant, I got a long nose. Like a president, I've got a few hoes. Swift with a stutter, I'm smooth like butter. Don't see it coming when I slip undercover. Like a big dog, but I don't bite. I'm still a big broad, I'd win that fight. Come match you and I knock out your lights.